If this goes on, don't panic. Bringing hope to the world through speculative fiction.
Hello and welcome to the Flight of Foundry's 2021 live episode. In this episode, we will be interviewing Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki. One thing real quick before we get started, the audio on this interview was a little bit rough. I had to call in on my phone because my computer was having issues, and it was live at a conference. So just be aware of that before the interview starts. And here's our interview with Oghenechovwe.
Okay, so here we are live at Flight of Foundry, special episode with Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki, who I've been looking to talk to for a super long time. It's nice to finally meet you in person. And let's see, some quick background for everybody. I met Oghenechovwe when he emailed me out of nowhere talking about his new anthology he was doing with Zelda Knight called Dominion, and I'm sure some folks out there have heard of that by now. And now it's pretty popular. Your story is now nominated for a Nebula.
Nebula finalist.
Nebula finalist. And you got all kinds of stuff going on. What was the success of your anthology like?
Well, it was kind of like I don't know. I've never really had a dream come true.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when things happen in a dream, there's this unreal quality to it. You don't expect it to happen in real life. You can fly in your dreams. But you don't expect to wake up and still fly. So kind of feels that way, like we always imagined how these things would feel, but we never actually knew it would feel that way, because a lot of the things about the Dominion anthology were groundbreaking. There are a lot of things that hadn't happened before, so I mean, people get nominated for the Nebula all the time, so it probably seems like it's just one of those things, but it's never happened before, for an African writer resident on the continent to be nominated for a Nebula. So, yeah.
I think that's wonderful, though. I mean, one thing that I've seen a trend in science fiction and fantasy in recent years is that the audience is opening up more broadly. People aren't necessarily looking to American white dude stories anymore. They want a universe where everybody's included. I want a universe where everybody's included. I want to read stories about the whole human race, not just part of it, right? So I love it that this is happening, and congratulations on your groundbreaking achievement. I hope you win. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
The anthology's awesome. I was sent a review copy so that I would be prepared for this podcast, and it's blowing my mind. I have not finished it yet, but I can't wait to read every story in it. Yours is awesome. We're definitely going to talk about that. I'm sure Alan has all kinds of questions just on the top of his head. He's usually really up on the details there, so that's great. We didn't do your bio, so I will.
Oh, yeah, do that.
Alan is not in front of his computer at the moment. We've had some tech difficulties today. So, Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki is an African speculative fiction writer and editor from Nigeria. He won the 2018 Nomo Award for his best short story by an African, which was longlisted in the 2019 Nomo Awards. He was awarded the 2020 HWA Diversity Grant and shortlisted for the 2020 British Science Fiction Association Award. And that's a prestigious one too. It's awesome. His novella, Ife-Iyoku, or Iyoku, did I get that right? Ife-Iyoku?
Yeah.
Okay, tale of Umadeyunuagbon. I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. I'm screwing it up, but
Charlie.
yes, is a finalist in the 2021 Nebula Awards, which is awesome, and the story is awesome. I found the pronunciation for Umadey really simply because apparently it's a fairly common Nigerian name, and but I could not find the pronunciation for the whole thing, so I could not practice it, right? He co-edited the groundbreaking Dominion anthology, which it definitely is, and his fiction and nonfiction has appeared in Almanana Magazine, Cosmic Roots and Eldritch Shores, Tor.com, Strange Horizons, NBC, and Uncanny Magazine. He's a member of the African Speculative Fiction Society, Codex, HWA, BSFA, BFA, and the SFWA, SIFWA. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, did you want to start with questions, Alan, or do you want me to?
No, go ahead, Diane.
Okay, fine. I'll take it then. So, your story is a really interesting combination of science fictional and fantasy elements, which immediately makes it something that I love because I love that blend of science fantasy as a sort of a group of genres. And I'm curious about the fantastical and mythological components. Now, you mentioned the Orisha, and they're a very important part of the story. I'm not going to give anything away, right? But I'm sort of familiar because I'm aware that it's connected with Yoruban spirituality. Is that part of what inspired the story?
The story is it's Nigerian. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
I can give that away. It's Nigerian. It's inspired by Nigeria, and a lot of the experiences, and the events that happen, in as much as it's fiction, they are drawn from elements that happen in Nigeria. The social, political atmosphere, and how we view things. So, and Yoruba. Yoruba culture is a large part of Nigeria. It affects, in every part of Nigeria you're in. It's one of the three major tribes in Nigeria. So yeah, who are also familiar with, the culture, the spirituality, and all that. So yeah.
You mentioned that there's a lot in there about what's going on politically and culturally. One theme I definitely drew out of that is, the old ways fighting against the new ways, and I think you were pretty explicit about that, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of that going on all over the world. I feel like, in a lot of ways, that's what's happening here in the United States too.
Okay.
Are you seeing parallels around the world as well, and can you kind of describe what's going on a little bit better in Nigeria so we could understand it?
Okay. In the story, Ife-Iyoku is this place, where is this society where the occupants are sort of trapped in, they are trapped by, they are hemmed in by radiation, the remnants from nuclear world war fought by the rest of the world, which affects them, So, and it sort of kind of is the reality today, the nuclear war being sort of like a representation of colonialism, South Africa is dealing with the fallout of that, So, and these things usually don't end when they end, So, and Nigeria is this place where, the occupants are dealing with some of all these issues, decades after it's supposed to have ended. And there's all these other issues, like you said, things like fixed gender roles, the patriarchy, the old ways versus the new. These are problems that have always been prevalent in every part of the world. But
True.
these things are they sort of take on a new. It's like the morph, the combination of the society that we are in sort of blows up all these issues. So yeah, some of these problems are not unique to Nigeria, but in they sort of take on a different shape. They sort of evolve, you know. So yeah, that's
Fair enough. You mentioned it was something that struck me, right? It's kind of a prevalent. I I can't speak for a group that I am not part of, but often it seems that women of color in North America are caught in a place where they're forced to be, be black, be Asian, right, or be or be women fighting for women's rights, and they often feel like those two things can be in conflict, and that the combination of the two, I guess marginalizations would be a way to describe it, right? Would be can be like, which one do you fight for more, right? Depending on the situation. And I felt that very strongly in Amade, your protagonist, right? Is that something that you were thinking about when you wrote the story? Is that something that you think is a concern, is an issue?
well, to be quite honest, I would be lying if I said I thought of every complexity, every
I hear you.
every
Yeah.
issue that people could identify in the story. What I did, because the story, like I said, is built around my reality. And something that happens is writers tend to borrow from reality. So some of those characters are modeled after real people or inspired by real people that I know, that I'm close to. So maybe in trying to capture these people, I might have captured some complexities of their lives. And it definitely is an issue when you have multiple marginalizations. There definitely is a conflict. But sometimes, from the little I know, sometimes you're caught between, which of them to make dominant. Sometimes your individual the issues that that are peculiar to you might be different from the issues that are peculiar to your group. For example, I'm disabled, for example. And sometimes there might be some sort of conflict, between being black or being disabled, and the person is stuck between choosing which loyalties. So yeah, it definitely is something that black women come across or face. I mean, for example, in my story, Madi was a woman in a society that was growing extinct and fast dwindling. So there's a conflict between her loyalties to herself as a person who does not desire reproduction versus her loyalty to the society, to the race, that she is supposed to be a part of and contributing to their continuity. So yeah, I'm glad that you were able to get that.
What about you, Alan? I have some questions still too, but if you want to take it over, I've been dominating the mic for a while.
Yeah, no worries. Good news, my computer is on now, but
oh, great.
Still not able to log in.
Whatever. We're good. We're good.
Would you mind talking about African publishing a little bit, Oghenechovwe?
Okay.
No, go ahead. Well, I was going to ask you specific questions, but you can just talk
Yeah.
about it if you want.
Yeah, no, let me hear what you have to say. Then, yeah, I'll add to it.
Okay. I might actually be able to pull up my actual real questions soon. So, part of your goal with Dominion was to promote African writers. Oh, and by the way, Diane, you need to read The Unclean immediately. Oghenechovwe knows I'm obsessed with this story,
Gotcha.
but it is fantastic.
Okay. I told you I'm going to read the whole thing. It's amazing.
Oh my God!
Like, I've loved every story I've read so far. It's great.
If we're gonna, I might have to stop and just geek out for a second. I'm gonna try and stop myself though. I mean, what progress do you feel Dominion has made towards that? We'll start with that question, but I've got more.
Okay. Towards publishing, right? Well, there's a whole lot of barriers to publishing on the continent. There's there's funding. You're supposed to be spending around the world, shipping books to different parts of the world. I mean, that's a large part of what publishing involves, but the economic condition of most African countries is not very up there. There's a reason why they call it the third world. And so funding is a real issue. That's
Right.
the first thing. Yeah, so most publications don't have the reach to go out to reach out there. And Dominion wasn't exactly an exception. I mean, we did have a successful crowdfunding drive. People were enthusiastic, but the truth is, when you're crowdfunding, you're not exactly spending top dollar. You're basically spending money that you scrounge for or you beg for.
Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah, if I'm going to not put it prettily. So you're basically asking for the bare bones of what you need. You're not going to be crowdfunding and spending Tor or Big Five money. So yeah,
Right.
we crowdfunded successfully, but yeah, it was bare bones. We definitely didn't have a budget for promo. We didn't put up a single paid ad anywhere. So our budget for promo was zero. Which is why, like you said initially at the beginning, I was up in your inbox talking about my anthology. Most of what we had to do was word of mouth. I had to reach out to everybody, every reviewer, singularly, and the number
Yes.
of course, you get more.
Independent writers know all about your pain there.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you know how submissions work. It's the same thing with promotion. For every yes you get 100 no's. So think about if we're getting 10 reviews, we're reaching out to 100 reviewers who were saying no, and we got hundreds of reviews and interactions. So you can be sure we reached out to thousands of reviewers single-handedly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Hard work.
Yeah, you were
hard.
You were tireless in your efforts. I will tell you. Anytime something comes up, you ping me. I love it, man. I love it.
No, that's great.
Yeah. So it's it's a whole process, and we're happy that I was able to yield some results as we can see. Yeah.
So you've got 3 or 4 more anthologies coming out in the next year? Is that right?
Yeah. About 3 or 4 or 5.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we'd love to see them all. I'll tell you right now. That's like the yes is guaranteed.
That's crazy. Like, how did that happen? I mean, you just went from Dominion success right into the 4 anthologies.
Yeah, you know how they say, if something is working, don't stop. The thing is, there's a huge need in the African speculative fiction, there's a huge gap that needs to be filled, that we discovered when we tried to do Dominion.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about, oh wow, Dominion is so amazing, the stories are so wonderful and everything. But you know what? That's just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the amazing literature that can come out of the continent. And for every great story that is in Dominion, we had to turn down dozens like that, so
Yeah.
we thought, why not keep, at a point I even considered starting a magazine. I mean, I
Yeah.
even paid for a domain name for several years. That's how serious it was. But
Wow.
yeah, it's still on hold because that's not something you just rush into. So the point is, there's a lot that needs to be done. So that's where all the other anthologies come from. So we say, okay, let's try and do as much as we can.
That's wonderful.
And your partner, Zelda Knight, how did you? Well, a couple of things to say. She would know about rushing, or I shouldn't say she would know about rushing into magazines, but she definitely knows about magazines because she has two of her own, I believe. Right?
Yes.
And
She
then,
heard about that we're paying the SFWA pro rate at a point before the increase.
Right. Actually, that leads into a question I was going to ask, which is, how did you guys meet to connect on this project?
I was going to ask that too.
Okay. It's the usual way every writer meets every editor. The literary boy meets girl. I submitted a story to her magazine, one of her magazines, and she liked it. And she reached out to me. She said she was inspired. It was actually my story, Ife-Iyoku, the short story version, which was about 5,000.
Right.
So she liked it. And in fact, it inspired her to want to do an anthology, of Black or African speculative fiction anthology. So, yeah, not to brag, but my story kind of inspired the anthology. So,
No, that's
it's okay
cool.
to brag when that happens.
That's right.
yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
she wanted to know if I would like to either contribute to the anthology or co-edit. And I said I would do both because I'm about opportunities, grabbing as many as you can, which is what I'm doing.
I feel that.
Yeah, the number of anthologies I'm doing. So I said I was going to do both. So yeah, I expanded the story. Like something is working, don't stop. So since the story was already I expanded it to a novella, and here we are.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Awesome.
I hope you don't burn out because I want to see a lot more of it.
Yeah. If I burn out, I'll just what's that thing they say the phoenix does? You burn out then rebirth. So
rise from the ashes.
Yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Like your protagonist. Yeah.
We've got like 10 minutes left, and we still got to take people's questions. But before we do that, there's one question specifically I want to ask you. Who are some African authors that everybody listening should know about?
There's Plutlus Samase. She has a story in everywhere. Dida, Clark's World. Yeah, Plutlus Samase. Then there's everybody in Dominion was amazing. Although there's amazing that wasn't in Dominion. There's Toby Ogundiro. There's Osahon Ize-Iyamu. There's Innocent Ilu. They weren't in Dominion. And everybody else in Dominion.
Awesome.
Way to promote your writers. That's the way you do it. That's great. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
And they are amazing. I have to agree. So, okay. So we'll check out Dominion, those of you who are listening to this later or now. And, can't recommend it enough. I'm going to give it a really glowing review on Goodreads because I do that. And yeah, I can't wait to see more. Let us know about everything you've got going on.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the yes is already given. So just tell us. We'll be happy to have you back on anytime because it's fantastic. And I guess now we'll open it up to audience questions, which we don't normally do. But this will be fun night.
So we got to check in Salon in our Discord area, and mine's not quite working right.
Okay, no, I'm good. I'm in it, and there are no questions at this time in the salon. So
okay, so if anyone out there is listening and you want to ask some questions, now's the time to put those in there. Mine just appeared, so now I can read it. I think it's up to date.
Finally, you have the notes after we're kind of done, almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's okay if no one else wants to ask questions. I've got more. So, and I'm sure Diane does too.
Flory Fredrickson, who is in France, wants to know what is the time for us all right now. It is currently 4:42 p.m. on my clock. I'm in the Pacific time zone in Canada.
And 7:42 for me.
It's 1 a.m. in the morning. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, dear Lord.
How much time do I spend writing?
Yes. How much time do you spend writing each day is the question. Yeah.
This might come as a bit of a confession, but I don't write as much as I should,
Every writer says that. That's not a good answer.
Yep. Guilty as charged, too. Yeah.
I definitely am not prolific. I mean, I write as much as I can, which isn't as much as I would like to because I don't know how.
Because you're doing all this promotion work.
Yeah. Like Nigeria is difficult place to put it plainly, and I mean I'm disabled, so it's difficult. I have to pace myself, so I definitely do not write daily. I write when I can, as much as I can. I just try to make it count when I do. So I'm sorry, I'm not a good example to inspire a writer.
I don't know. I think that's a pretty good example. I write when I can, as much as I can, and then I try to make it count. That's great advice.
And Diane actually has a class about that at Kat Rambo's school. So
yeah, it's called Writing in the Cracks. How to find time for writing when you have none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do a little self-promo there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for throwing that my way. Does anybody else have any other questions? Because if not, I'm sure we got more. Okay, I'm seeing silence. Go ahead, Alan. Oh, wait. Oh, what are you working on now is the question.
I'm working on everything. I'm doing about 4 to 5 anthologies. One of them is non-fiction. It's focused on dealing with the pandemic, how speculative fiction writers were able to deal during the pandemic. The other one is the first ever year's best African speculative fiction anthology.
Fantastic.
Third one is Africa Reason. It's like Dominion. It's a fiction anthology. It's going to be published by Tor and co-edited by Zelda Knight and Sherry Rennie Thomas. Then there's an African futurism anthology in the works with someone else. Then my story, Ife-Iyoku, is sort of expanding. I want to do a trilogy set in the same world. Yeah, featuring these characters. So, I have a bunch of other stuff I'm playing with, novellas, horror, science fiction, and the like. So, yeah.
And a great question here again from Flory. Do you feel humor can help, and are you optimistic in the long run?
Humor is a very powerful device, and yes, it definitely does help. And I'm very, very optimistic. If I weren't, there would be no way I'll be able to do what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, that's at the crux of what we're doing, escaping. That's what science fiction fantasy is, and humor is something that does that very well. So definitely, I would recommend that you keep up the humor button, pressing down on it.
I agree completely. It's what we're all about here, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we have one question that we've asked every single guest that's ever been on here, and that is, what brings you hope right now?
Okay. The present, everything around that has been going on. I don't know. There's usually a lot of things happening at every moment in time, and a lot of it is both positive and negative. So if you allow yourself, you can just pick from the positivity. Dominion has had a cool reception, even though it has also had it, but I choose to focus on the positive. I've been shortlisted for a number of awards, even though I also haven't won a couple of them. So yeah, just basically everything that's happened, there's a positive side of it. So yeah. Sorry if that's not specific enough.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Some people have very specific answers to that, and some people have more general answers. But
I'd like to say I've won the lottery, but I haven't.
No, you worked for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that answer. I appreciate that. We've got 2 minutes before we're going to get booted off. Does anyone out there have any last-minute questions before we have to go and hang out in the lobby?
I'll just do the usual at this point, which is where do people find you on the web?
Yes.
Okay, my website, ekpeki.com, EKPEKI. Everything is there. My books are there for free. My novella, at least. And yeah, then you can follow me on Twitter, penprince_, penprince, PENPRINCE_.
All right.
Awesome. And if you like what we're doing, come and check us out. If this goes on, don't panic. We are actually going to be interviewing Sherry Renee Thomas, one of your co-editors soon. So that's coming up, and come and check us out if you like interviews with editors, writers, and just members of the science fiction community in general. Things with a hopeful bent, usually. Although sometimes we get deep into the politics.
We do. We talk about hope punk, right? So sometimes we do touch on things that are not necessarily as encouraging, but then we try to find hope in that, right? Hope in what is going on to resist those things.
I was about to say, or a way to resist it. So it is 7:50 right now. I'm guessing that we're going to get the boot here. So thanks to everybody for coming to check us out. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we have been talking with Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki, who is the co-editor of Dominion, an anthology of speculative fiction from Africa and the African diaspora. And he is also a Nebula finalist this year. And thank you so much for coming. This was an absolute joy, and I would love to do it again anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, and that was our interview with Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki. So, Diane, how did you think it went?
Okay, on one hand, I loved the interview. It was so interesting. Oghenechovwe is a really cool guy. It was really neat to talk to him, and I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I can't wait to learn more about African science fiction and fantasy. I'm very excited to see the cultural influences that are different from the ones that I'm accustomed to. I mean, you know, it's been complained before that science fiction has a long history of being an American white guy's game.
Right.
I'm tired of that shit. I want my future to have all kinds of people in it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
On the other hand, the technical issues were a big problem for me in this one, right? Because we had difficulty connecting, I felt like I was tap dancing at the beginning of the episode, right?
Yeah.
I felt like thrust into, like, it's been a long time since I've been that nervous while doing an interview.
Yeah.
I felt like I was kind of thrust into way too deep water. I'm used to having, you know, our dynamic. We have a rhythm, a way in which to do things, because it took a while for you to get on because of, you know, I mean, it's computers, everybody understands, but, you know,
Yeah.
I felt like I was tap dancing in front of an audience that was not interested in tap dancing. I made all kinds of mistakes, and I would have really preferred that things not go that way. But overall, I think we got the message out. Right? I think that people learned interesting stuff. And I think that we had, I mean, Oghenechovwe had lots of really great stuff to contribute. And I'm glad that we had an opportunity to speak to him. And the people at Flights of Foundry were awesome. This had nothing to do with them at all. Our issues. They were amazing. And the conference was a lot of fun. And there was a lot of cool stuff going on there. And I'm really honored that we got a chance to do it.
Yeah. I was like all set and ready to go for the interview. I'd done my research as I do, you know, and then a half an hour before the episode, my computer just force updated, excuse me. And I was just like, oh shit, this is like my worst nightmare, basically. You know, because it's like a live episode. Yeah. You can't reschedule it. You know what I mean?
No.
And I talked to Oghenechovwe a lot online. Him and I are buddies. So, you know, I was feeling all comfy about it and like, yeah, this is a live episode, but we're going to kill it. And then that happened. And I just got into it, and I didn't have my questions that I spent all this time writing. I didn't have anything. And I'm like trying to call in on my phone. And so when I finally got in, I was just super flustered, but, not to dwell on that too much, but for me, that was definitely,
I think the reason that we're both being candid about it is because, you know, everybody has not perfect days and not perfect experiences, right? And that's beautiful in and of itself too. Like,
well, I'll tell you.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say that interview is candid in a way that we're even beyond what we usually are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, stuff happens. I'm reminded. There's this recording that I have heard. I got it somewhere because I don't know where I got it. I think I may have saved it from YouTube. But this is Ella Fitzgerald. She's performing Mac the Knife. She forgets the lyrics halfway through, right? And she just goes on with, and there's this song now, a really good one. And I wish I could remember the words, you know, and she's just going on like this, right? And it just didn't miss a beat. And I'm like, damn, you know, but it happens to everybody.
Back to Oghenechovwe real quick, though. It was great to talk to him about Africa and publishing in Africa, and specifically Nigeria, because that's where he's from. Africa, to everybody out there, is not a country.
Yes, in case you needed that geography lesson, yeah.
Right. But people talk about it as if it is a country, and it's not. But it just makes me realize like how much we here take for granted in the publishing industry. And even though everyone here has all these issues for whatever reason, our issues aren't even comparable to some of the stuff that other people are dealing with.
That's a fact. I was struck by that too. Like, I often get frustrated about Canadian publishing because we're so overshadowed by the American publishing industry right next door, right? Like, it's a constant complaint in Canada that if you want to be a successful Canadian artist, you have to go to the United States, right? So, but I mean, that is, at least we can do that, right? That's an option. right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, like there's so many things that are so much more difficult when you are from the continent, as Oghenechovwe put it, right? So.
Right, exactly. So before we wrap up, I just want to mention real quick, one thing that really stuck out to me is when he said having some success was like waking up from a dream, but the dream doesn't end. I love that.
Yeah.
And, it's like one of those things that everybody hopes that they can experience someday. And it's just great to know that that is happening for him. That was, a very touching moment for me.
You guys won't be able to see, but his smile was just, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a man living his bliss, right?
Yeah. And so if anybody out there wants to hear more about Oghenechovwe and the Dominion anthology, it was actually mentioned in an article in the Washington Post.
Fantastic.
Fairly recently. So everyone go out and look in the Washington Post for mid-May science fiction article. I think Lave Tidhar wrote the article, if I'm correct about that. I think that's it for this episode. So thanks for listening. And
once again, we'll plug our Patreon. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You can find us at patreon.com if this goes on. And I'm not going to say a huge amount about it here because this has already been a fairly long epilogue to the episode, as it were. But we have different levels of membership that give you, like, for a couple bucks, you get access to our Discord community at kind of the mid-range, which is around $5 US. You get extra episodes and articles, some behind-the-scenes stuff, and a discount at the Rambo's Academy for Wayward Writers, which is awesome. And then at, I believe it'll be $10 US. I'm looking at Canadian prices, so I'm estimating. Sorry if I'm out. Right.
That's about right.
Right. You get ebook giveaways, the occasional on-demand course giveaway from Kat. You can vote on interview choices twice a year, and you get your name in the credits. So it's a great way to support us, and you get, behind-the-scenes information and access. And if you got a couple extra bucks now that, the world is opening up again, maybe think about spotting a couple our way.
So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
If This Goes On, Don't Panic is edited by Alan Bailey with production by Sound Maiden. Our theme music is by Father Flamethrower. Additional music is by Christopher Snydrowski, and outro music by Sable Aradia. Intro by Dave Robinson. A special thanks to our guest, Oghenechovwe Donald Ekpeki, and extra special thank you to the Flights of Foundry crew. And thank you everybody out there for supporting us, and we'll see you again soon.